I want to switch things up a bit and talk to you a little bit about how to visually organize ideas in your paper. I'm going to show you how to use a word processing application to create headings for your documented argument. I'll show you how to do this in Google Docs, and I'll show you how to do this in Microsoft Word. Now let's say for the sake of argument let's say that I'm writing a documented argument about harm reduction in Scioto County. And let's say that I want to propose that Shawnee State University create a support group for people who are related to folks that are dealing with dependency and addiction issues. I'm going to switch screens here in a little bit and show you what an outline for a paper like that might look like. So here's the outline that we talked about at the end of the last video. Here's an outline for the paper that I was just kind of describing. So there's a title page, there's an abstract because we're working in APA format. There's going to be an introduction. I might do something that's kind of creative. I might provide an anecdote or tell a short story about a former student that was raising siblings while she was also dealing with her parents' addiction issues. I might provide a section about context and background. To be honest, for an audience that I would propose this to, that would be people that can make decisions at Shawnee State University. I don't need to talk very much about this being a problem because I think most folks understand that it is a problem. Where I do need to spend some time is talking about the solution. So the support group at Shawnee State University for people impacted by addiction, I need to talk about what that procedure would look like, kind of a step-by-step thing, what steps would need to take place in order to get that group recognized. What's the timeline for it? Who would recognize the group? Who do I need to seek out in order to persuade to act upon this? What's the process that they need in order to get this approved? Who might be a faculty sponsor? What speakers might I invite? Who could I ask for funding for that kind of event? Are there grants out there? This implementation piece, again, because most folks agree that it's a problem, the implementation and describing the specifics of the problem, of the solution to that problem, is really important. I could also talk about benefits, feasibility, why it's something that we could actually do. A counter-argument, that's something that's required for everybody. You need to anticipate that folks are going to disagree. So there might be somebody that says, you don't need a group like this. Counseling services, we already have something on campus. And I would make the case that this provides more of a peer network where folks can help out other folks and really relate to each other, relate to people that are dealing with a similar problem. Conclusion, what happens if we don't act? If we don't implement a group like this, what are we missing out on? And then again, we also need a reference list. You're going to need to be able to create your own outline, your own basic outline. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to go from a bulleted list like this to something that's starting to look like sections of a paper, a table of contents, if you will, for your paper. So here's how we start that. I'm going to highlight all this. I'm going to take it out of the bulleted list. And we're going to be working with the style sections here. And I'm going to show you in detail how to do this in Word, and I'll show you briefly how to do this in Google Docs. So each of these are going to be main sections of my essay. So title page, abstract, introduction, context, background, solution, counter argument, conclusion, and the reference list. So some of these they're going to be headings that I'll actually use in the paper. So I might have an introduction. And let's say I want to make that heading 2. Context background, that's a heading 2. These are going to be heading 3 because they're within that context background. Heading 2, these are all going to be heading 3. And it looks a little funky, but bear with me. It's going to make a lot of sense here in a second. So I'm going through and I'm applying heading 2. So we have a bunch of stuff in blue, and that's kind of weird to look at. So I might start putting these on different pages. So we got introduction on page 1, or I'm actually on page 2 right now. Oh, we got title page and abstract up here too. So I forgot about those. 2, 2. Okay, so we're all down on one page. This is my entire paper. So I want abstract on its own page. I want introduction on its own page. I want context. What I'm doing is I'm creating page breaks between these main headings. And I'm doing that by doing Control and Enter. It'll just put things on its own page. Wherever the cursor is, it's going to create a page break. The counter argument will be on its own. I'll do it here. Conclusion will be on its own page. Reference list, it just creates a page of separation between where the cursor is and the previous line before it. So you see conclusion, and then we see reference list. Now, let's say I don't like the headings. I mean, they're kind of basic. Calibri Light. Right-click it, go to Modify, add whatever font you want. Your instructor might have a particular reason why they like a particular font or don't like a particular font. Let's say, let's be weird, and let's do Comic Sans, because that's a font that's pretty awful. Go in there, bold. And look what it's going to do to all of them. Reference list, conclusion, counter argument. Now it didn't do it here because this is heading 3. So let's go ahead and change heading 3. Let's modify that and make that something different. Arial. We'll really goof with it. You should kind of keep them similar. So if this is Comic Sans, it should be Comic Sans, but just for the sake of demonstration. So these are all in Arial. And if you go to other sections that have a heading 3, they're also in Arial. So now you see you have these different sections and you know where your essay is going to go. But let me show you the kind of cool thing that you can do, particularly when you're working with a larger project. If you go up to View and you go to the navigation pane, look what happens over here on the left. You have your table of contents here, and you can click through to it, the different sections of your essay. Kind of cool. So you see visually what portions or what sections you have in your essay. So we have a heading 3 or a heading 2 that got applied that shouldn't be there, so we just hit Enter or backspace, and then look at this clean table of contents that we have here. Let me show you very briefly how to do what we just did in Microsoft Word, but do that in Google Docs. One second. Here we are in a untitled Google document, and we just have that list of different sections that I had talked about just a little bit ago. And I want to turn these into section headings. Now what Google Docs does is it auto-populates your headings over here in the left. So title page, heading 2, abstract, heading 2. And I go through and just apply those headings. Oops. These two, heading 3, so on and so forth. And you see how it's auto-populating over here on the left. Some of these headings that you're going to create, you will end up changing them, or you may not need them later on. You may not need a heading for the abstract, in other words, or for the title page. But they help you get a little less intimidated by a 2,500 word essay. If you think of the entire 2,500 word essay, it gets a little intimidating to think about it all at once, even for somebody like myself who's written a lot and written much longer essays than 2,500 words. So if you think about the individual sections, and you ask yourself, can I write it 1 or 2 pages or a page and a half that introduces the topic and tells a brief, interesting story that gets people's attention about this issue? Yeah, you can. Can you write 2 or 3 pages about the context or background of the problem? Yeah, you can do that. Can you write 3 to 4 pages kind of explaining the problem, or maybe 3 to 4 pages explaining the solution? Yeah, you can totally do it. And by the time you add all that up, you easily got your 2,500 words. You're going to have issues with like finding things to cut to make sure that you have the best 2,500-ish words to make your case. So today we've talked about the different sections that you might include in your documented argument, how those sections need to be tied to your audience and to kind of fit what your audience needs. And we've also talked a little bit about how you can use technology to visualize where your argument's going and where the sections are of your essay. So for your discussion board post today, I want you to try it out. I want you to identify the sections that you need, and in a Word document, I want you to put into practice what I had just showed you. Create sections, use the headings, the styles feature in Word to create headings for your own paper. There'll be some instructions, a little bit of writing that I want you to do to kind of explain and kind of defend why you need those sections for your audience. And I'm also going to ask you to think a little bit about how you're going to budget your time to work on the documented argument. We're over halfway through with the class. We've got 3 weeks left. We got a couple weeks to really kind of write this thing and then to revise and get some feedback. So we've got a lot of work to do in the next couple weeks, and I just want to make sure that you're budgeting the time that you need in order to be successful. If you have any questions or concerns or problems, make sure that you reach out to your faculty member. Again, the Writing Center is also a good resource. But congratulations for making it to the end of week 4, and we'll get back at it in week 5. Bye for now.